Welcome to Teaching a Hill Kids Church Online.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Jamie.
And today we're going to be talking about the Good Samaritan.
But that will be after time of worship. This is the last parable that we're going to look at in this series. We're taking it from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 10, verses 25 to 37. I'll read it for you, and this is how it goes. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? The man answered, You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right, Jesus told him. Do that and you will live. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along. But when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant, that's a Levite, walked over and looked at him lying there. But he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, The Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." So, the religious man wanted to show Jesus and everybody around him how he could obey all the laws of Moses. But he had one question, and that was, who is a neighbor? You know, the Jews in those days felt that the people that were their neighbors were just fellow Jews. And that's why Jesus answered his question with this parable. You see, Samaritans were a mixture of Hebrews and people from other places. Now, Jews are also Hebrews. So Samaritans were a mixture of Jews and people from other places, while Jews were only Jews. They were only Hebrews. Another thing is that the Jews worshipped God in the temple that was in Jerusalem, while the Samaritans worshipped God on the Mount Gerizim. And you know what? The 2 groups hated each other as equally as each other. So in this parable, you would have expected the priest, who was a Jew, a religious person, to have helped his fellow Jewish man that lay wounded at the side of the road. But he didn't. Instead, what he did was to cross over to the other side of the road. He probably said, "Nothing to do with me." And also, you would have expected the Levite, the temple helper, to have helped his fellow Jew. No, he didn't. He went and had a look to see what was going on. And then he crossed over to the other side and went off on his merry way. But the Samaritan, who must have recognized that this person was a Jew, he didn't pass by. He stopped. He bandaged his wounds after he had cleaned them and poured oil and wine on them. And then he carried him on his own transport, his own donkey, off to an inn. And it didn't stop there. He even paid the innkeeper to look after this wounded man. And it didn't stop there either. He promised the innkeeper, if he needed more money looking after this wounded man, that he would pay him the next time he was around. After all that, now I want to ask you, who do you think was neighborly? If you said the Samaritan, you were right. Because the last part of the passage we read, Jesus said to the religious leader that he should go and do likewise. He should go and do the same. We must realize that this message is for us today also. We need to show mercy and be kind to people, even if they don't come from the same place as us. That is being neighborly, and that is the end of the story.
Hello everybody! Has anybody ever really shown kindness to you when you really needed it? Well, here's a way that we could show some kindness. Look, I've made this card with a little man made out of a sticking plaster, and this would be great as a get well card or just a card to make to somebody to show that you care for them and that you're thinking of them. So these are really nice and simple. Let's make one of these. So I have these blank cards, which makes it easier, but if you don't, just get a piece of card and fold it in half. And then you want a sticking plaster. This is just a very average sized one, like you might put around your finger. And we can peel off the backing and stick that on vertically, in the middle of our card. And then taking a black pen, I'm going to draw in some legs, just stick legs with little round feet, and then coming out from the middle, 2 arms coming up, and I'm not going to try and draw a complete hand, but I'm just giving him 3 fingers on each hand. And then I'll put in some spiky hair across the top, and then we'll draw on some eyes. The Sharpie draws fine onto the plaster, and a mouth. If you had some googly eyes, then you could use those, stick those on, that would be fun. But I think he looks quite good, just like that. And then you might want some decorations around the edge. So for this one, I've drawn flowers. I'll just show you how to draw flowers if you'd like to do that. So many flowers have a yellow centre. So on the card, it might just be a dot. So I'll make them a bit bigger here. And it looks quite good if you do kind of little groupings of flowers around your page. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. You don't want it to be too organised as if they've been planted in rows. It looks more natural. So there we are, I've got my dots around the page, and then taking another colour. It might be the favourite colour of the person you're making the card for, or it might be like the Good Samaritan. You don't know the person, he didn't know the person at all he was helping, did he? Or you might not know them very well. But just something bright and cheerful. And then, so what I'm doing is I'm just taking my pen and I'm going loop, loop, loop all around the edge of the central dot. And you can see in some places the petals end up going behind the other one. So I did this one first, and then those ones, I just left a gap when I got to the edge. So first one will go loop, loop, loop. And then the second one, I can't quite do the whole petal, that's fine, and then around this side I can. So you could decorate in any way you want, and you can make this card for somebody when they're ill and they really need some care, or just whenever you feel like. And do you know what? Anybody you give this card to, they can be your neighbour because you're being kind to them. So why don't you take a chance to really love somebody this week by thinking about them enough to make them a little card. You can write a kind message inside asking if they need any help, or telling them you're praying for them, or offering to cook them a meal, or whatever you could do for them, or just saying, I was thinking of you. And I think that they will love that, and you will have been a good neighbour, just like Jesus asked you to be. Well, enjoy being a good neighbour this week, and I hope you experience some kindness from somebody else as well. And I'll see you next week. Bye!
This is where we ask the question, who is our neighbour?
So who's your neighbour?
Anyone that's not me.
That's a good way to put it.
So let me get this right. The religious leader actually thought he could test Jesus. These guys seem to never learn.
Jamie, you know, going through all of the Gospels, we can see and notice that all the people that tried Jesus got things spectacularly wrong, whereas Jesus never gets things wrong.
This religious leader was a legal expert. And do you know what? It's actually funny how Jesus sorted all of his answers in a legal way as well, by asking, what did the law say?
Yes, the first part of his answer where he talked about loving God with his whole heart, mind, strength, and soul, which he could probably do. But loving his neighbour, that's where he probably hit a snag. He asked who his neighbours were, probably only thinking that it was his Jewish brothers.
On another note, That's probably where they got the name Samaritans from.
What are you talking about?
The charity, the Samaritan.
Oh, I get what you mean now. The person in the parable was a Samaritan who was really kind and went above and beyond what a normal person would do to help others. That makes sense.
Did you notice that the two other people in the parable were religious?
I did. This Samaritan was very kind and merciful to everybody, even those who hated him. After all, the wounded was a Jew.
That's right. The Jews hated the Samaritans, and the Samaritans hated the Jews in return. Yet, that man was out to help.
And that's how we should all be. We should all be kind and merciful to our neighbours. Do you remember what a neighbour is? That's it for this week.
Till next time, bye!